I have the privilege this morning of speaking with you on the subject of sexual harassment. This is a topic that is near and dear to my heart. I have had the opportunity to make a living, and a very good one, due to this subject of sexual harassment. Now, I have a couple of different jobs that I'm doing currently. One job that I hold right now is that I am an attorney in the state of Texas, and I've got a small law office down there, law offices of Courtney Anderson. And I'm in private practice, so I represent people in lots of different issues in their life. And sexual harassment has helped me to pay the bills many, many months. Because we have, fortunately for me in that job, several organizations. In fact, I would argue the majority of organizations across this fine country, large, small, private, and public entities like local and federal governments that do not take sexual harassment seriously. Don't think it's a big deal. They don't train on it. And if they do, it's sort of maybe a bad video or some jokes where people say to themselves, we're going to go to sexual harassment training. Oh, we're going to learn how to harass people. And everybody thinks it's funny. They really do. These organizations think it's funny. They don't invest in it. Team members think it's funny. And lo and behold, there's a consequence to that attitude. What types of consequences are there? They're financial because of lawsuits. And that's how I get the opportunity to make a living, because I have someone come to my office who says, you know, I work at an organization and they didn't take it seriously, and so these things have been happening to me. Jokes and inappropriate touching. And I said, that's interesting, and especially if I can show a pattern and a practice of several people at that same organization with those types of issues, then the company has to pay. There are consequences. There are financial consequences. Sexual harassment. Is that a law, sexual harassment? Is it a law, or is it a company policy? Okay, it's a law. Wonderful, wonderful. I love it. I love this group. Wonderful. It's a law. All right, we're empowered. We're awake. All right, what's the name of the law? We got a lot of HR people here today. If you're training on it, we better know what law it is. So what law is it? Title 7, also known as the Civil Rights Act of 1964. I love it. Should every manager and supervisor at your organization in every department be able to answer that question and know what law? Yes. When I go to train, my other job that I do, I'm a trainer, I've got a consulting company, so I do mediations, investigations of these types of issues, and training with national seminars. When I show up at an organization to train or do an investigation, do most managers and supervisors know the name of the law? No. A lot of them don't even know it is a law. Sexual harassment training, is this something that's optional, or is it something that's mandatory? Yeah. Yeah. See, it makes me happy as a lawyer when someone comes in my office and I'll ask them, well, how recently did you have your sexual harassment training at your company? And they'll say something like, I've been there 10 years. We've never had sexual harassment training. Oh, it's music to my ears. Oh, I'm so happy. I'm so happy. Why am I so happy to hear that? Yes, I've got business, and why is it so important that that organization did not have the mandatory training? Why does that make me so happy? They are going to be absolutely liable. Because your only legal defense is training. That is it. It's called an affirmative defense. So when these things come up and you go to court, if you cannot document and show that you had the mandatory required training, then you have no defense. And then I'm going to be very likely to prevail. So it's mandatory, have to have it. We know that we can be exposed to consequences like lawsuits. And has anyone heard of the phrase punitive damages? Has anyone heard of this? Yeah. Yes. Let's take a moment to just refresh our recollection of what does this phrase stand for. What are punitive damages? What are they? Punitive, the word punitive means punishment. So that's all it is. I've got two words. Punitive means punishment, so that means punishment. What does damages mean? Money. There it is. Punishment, money. Punishment, money. This is a simple concept. You didn't do the training, or you didn't take it seriously. You didn't investigate and document. Guess what? We're going to be exposed to punishment money under what law? The 1964 Civil Rights Act, federal law. Is this a big deal at all? Well, okay, big deal. I'm up here, I'm talking about laws. Why would your organization care about this punishment money? Why would you care about it? Okay, it affects the bottom line. Well, how much money are we talking about? Enough for the organization to notice? Are we talking about tens of thousands of dollars? Hundreds of thousands of dollars? Could you have million-dollar sexual harassment claims? Could you have a $30 million sexual harassment case? Yes, you could. This year, 2002, in April, out in California, a grocery store chain, Ralph's Grocery Store. 5 women said, I've been sexually harassed. Company didn't take it seriously, didn't manage it appropriately, didn't have training, didn't document, didn't investigate. What happens? Go to court, a $30 million sexual harassment verdict. It's the largest one to date. It's not a joke. It's mandatory. And there are consequences. And there are very few guarantees in life. But I'm going to make this proposition to you. If you do not invest in this training, I will let you know that there are a large number of lawyers out in this country eager to take this case. And when I say there are a large number of lawyers, how many lawyers do we have in this country? I know I did not hear too many. We have over 1 million attorneys in this country. And that's an important factor for you to remember because we have about approximately 200,000 dentists and over 1 million attorneys. We have more lawyers in this country per capita than anywhere in the entire world. Yes, it is a litigious society, and I can almost guarantee you, you will get caught if you do not take sexual harassment training seriously. It's because it's a very simple law to understand. It's an easy law to train on, and it's an easy law for you to be found liable for. So when I conduct sexual harassment training, ideally what I like to do at your organization is separate out your managers, your supervisors from your non-supervisory personnel. Because your supervisors and managers have a heightened responsibility to understand how these things work and how to manage them. So we're going to focus in that section on answering a couple of questions, like why should managers care about sexual harassment? What do they do if someone comes to them and says they've been sexually harassed? How do they manage it? What's the right thing to do? So we'll integrate those leadership skills and the knowledge of the law for supervisors and managers. And then for your non-supervisory personnel, do they have to be trained? Yes! Once again, I'm delighted by the organizations who'll say things to me like, well, you know, we understand the idea of training the managers, but we don't need to bring everybody else in. Okay, that's fine. But could the non-supervisory personnel, could they sexually harass a coworker? Yeah. Would you be liable for that? Yeah. What if the company didn't know about it? Would the company still be liable? Yes. Okay. So we're going to train everybody. And when I train non-supervisory personnel, I'm going to answer some questions for them and put it in their language based on the industry that they're in. Why should they care about this? And then we're going to go through some practical tips for non-supervisory personnel to make them understand this is not a joke. We'll look at the consequences to it. And I will do this in a manner where when they leave the room, they will understand where the line is. And I make this as simple as possible. In fact, my rule that I teach non-supervisory personnel is, if the behavior doesn't have anything to do with your job, then you don't do it. Yes. Now my rule is, it's very simple. And then I apply it to jokes, and I apply it to graffiti, and sending people obscene notes and emails. I apply it to touching. And in some organizations, I always customize this. So if your organization's had a lot of sexual harassment problems and you got some attitudes in there, then I'm going to have a style. Well, they'll understand it's not a joke. I have rules like hands to ourselves, The hands to ourselves rule helps a lot with touching. Hands to ourselves. I also will have the ability to assist these team members with understanding the concept of hostile work environment, sexual harassment. Now, we know we have two types of sexual harassment. What are they? The first one is quid pro quo. What does that mean in English? This for that. So it's a little bit of Latin. Quid pro quo in English means this for that. And of course, that's where you're trying to trade some sort of sexual request or favor for something related to the job. That's almost always a supervisor or manager in that position. So we'll focus a lot on that in their session. With your non-supervisory personnel, we got to explain what hostile work environment means. What does hostile work environment mean? And so we're going to go through the definitions and help your team members understand what unwelcome means. Unwelcome is one of the definitions for something to be hostile work environment. It's got to be unwelcome. It's got to be offensive. It's got to be of a sexual nature that interferes with their job or creates a hostile or intimidating work environment. That's the definition. So for unwelcome, for instance, I spend a lot of time, especially when we have bad attitudes and we've got people who've been engaging in this thinking it's a joke, I explain to people things like, if you ask someone out on a date at work, is that okay under the law? Coworkers asking someone out on a date? Is? Yeah, of course it is. Government's not trying to stop love. No, of course not. All right. So I asked somebody out on a date at work. That's fine. I asked somebody out on a date. Now, one of my keys to understand the line between proper behavior and illegal behavior is unwelcome. Okay? So I asked someone out on a date, and my coworker Joe, I say, Joe, would you like to go out on a date with me? Okay, I'm okay. I haven't crossed the line. How would I know that the behavior might be unwelcome? Joe might say no. Okay, all right. We're talking about communication. You got a lot of people today helping you with the communication part. So Joe might tell me no. And then what I will do is use lots of examples, and I will role play and act this out to get your team members to understand. People are not playing hard to get. They do not want you. They do not want you. Do not want you. And I will use every example possible so that your ladies and gentlemen will understand unwelcome. Unwelcome. And we're going to do it in a manner that team members will leave the session grasping lots of things, like why they should care about this, how it relates to their job, why they're investing their time in it. They'll leave the session understanding where the line is between behavior that's appropriate and fine and behavior that's inappropriate. And I make that line very, very clear. They'll be empowered to report these things to your HR and to work internally. I stress so much with non-supervisory personnel to work within the system. And you need that, you want it, because you don't want them going outside to attorneys or the EEOC. So we want to solve this thing in-house. And most of these things can be done. I enjoy the sexual harassment training. Because when I come to an organization that's serious about it and making the investment, I feel that I really can make a difference. And I was in Morton, Minnesota. Has anyone been there? Okay. I was there a little while ago at a casino. And I trained the entire staff. So yes, it took a week because I had to get 1,000 people through the program, but I did it. And I enjoyed my stay in Morton, which is a lovely town. And I met a lot of wonderful people, and I had an organization there that was serious about this. And they invested, and we have made some positive changes. And the consequences of this training will ripple out. You cannot afford to treat this as a joke, because it's not. And I look forward to the opportunity to meet you today. I hope you're enjoying your time. I thank you for your time and attention. And I look forward to coming and working with you to do everything I possibly can to prevent and mitigate sexual harassment problems. And if I don't meet you in that capacity, then I am licensed in Texas. And I look forward to being able to once again pay my bills by suing you if we can't work together on the phone. Thank you. Time for lunch.